Pocahontas and John Rolfe, the diplomatic love in the wild green lands of 17th century Virginia, where the rivers wound through thick forests and deer stepped silently beneath the trees. A quiet revolution was beginning. The English settlers had come in ships, hungry for land, wealth, and survival. The Native Americans watched them with wary eyes, unsure whether these pale-skinned strangers brought friendship or doom. Between two vastly different worlds, one love story would emerge not of fantasy, but of diplomacy, hope, and sacrifice. Pocahontas, the daughter of the powerful Chief Powhatan, was not born with her famous name. She was Matoka, born around 1596, into the Powhatan Confederacy, one of the most influential indigenous groups on the eastern seaboard. From a young age, she showed curiosity and kindness, known for her bright spirit and her ability to understand those who were different. When English colonists landed in 1607 and began building Jamestown, tension with the Powhatan people grew quickly. Food was scarce, trust was fragile, and violence was frequent. Pocahontas, then around 11 or 12, first came into contact with the colonists. Her presence often acted as a bridge, while legend tells that she saved Captain John Smith from execution by her father. Most historians believe it was a ceremonial act meant to symbolize peace. Still, Pocahontas began to be seen as a figure of understanding between two cultures. Years passed, and Pocahontas's world changed. After Smith returned to England due to injury, relations between the English and the Powhatan soured. Hostilities erupted. In 1613, during one of these clashes, Pocahontas was captured by the English. She was taken to Jamestown and held as a hostage, a strategy to pressure her father into negotiation. But something unexpected happened. While in captivity, Pocahontas met John Rolfe, a widowed Englishman in his late 20s. Rolfe was unlike many of his fellow settlers, a deeply religious man. He was also ambitious but quiet, thoughtful, and morally conflicted about the violence between the English and the natives. He had come to the New World to grow tobacco and rebuild his life after losing his wife and child on the journey over. Their first interactions were likely cautious and formal. Pocahontas, now in her late teens, was adapting to English customs. Rolfe taught her to read and write in English and introduced her to Christianity. Over time, their relationship blossomed. What began as careful conversations became something deeper. Perhaps it was in a shared quiet, their mutual isolation, their losses, and their desire for peace that love took root. In 1614, Pocahontas converted to Christianity and was baptized as Rebecca. She and John Rolfe married soon after in the Jamestown church. Their union was the first recorded interracial marriage in North American history, and it marked the beginning of what would be known as the Pocahontas Peace. For 8 years, there was a lull in the hostilities between the Powhatan tribes and the English settlers. Their life together was modest but content. They had a son, Thomas Rolfe, who moved to a tobacco plantation on the James River. Pocahontas adjusted to English customs, while Rolfe remained respectful of her heritage. Despite the political meaning of their marriage, they were said to share affection and mutual respect. In 1616, the Virginia Company saw an opportunity. Pocahontas could be used as a symbol to show investors and the English public that the colony was not just surviving, it was civilizing. Family was sent to England, where Pocahontas was presented as a Christianized noble savage. To royalty and nobility, she met King James I and Queen Anne, attended banquets, and posed for portraits in English gowns. But beneath the surface, the trip was complex for Pocahontas. She was thousands of miles from home, surrounded by a society that admired her while misunderstanding her. During her time in London, she also encountered John Smith, whom she had believed dead. Their reunion was awkward. She reportedly turned her face from him and reminded him of the betrayal her people had endured. As the Rolfe family prepared to return to Virginia in 1617, tragedy struck. Pocahontas fell gravely ill, perhaps from pneumonia, tuberculosis, or dysentery. She died at just 21 or 22 years old in Gravesend, England. She was buried there, far from the rivers and forests of her youth. John Rolfe returned to Virginia with their son, devastated. Thomas was later sent to England for education and would not return until he was a young man. Rolfe never remarried and died in 1622, though their story ended in sorrow. The legacy of Pocahontas and John Rolfe lived on. Their marriage did not end the conflict between settlers and natives, but it proved that love could exist across immense cultural divides. Their union brought a brief peace. It opened conversations about coexistence and adaptation in a time when conquest was the norm. Pocahontas is remembered today with reverence by Native Americans, historians, and storytellers alike. She was a woman of courage, adaptability, and grace. Her life was not a fairy tale, but it was filled with strength and dignity. And her love with John Rolfe was not the dramatic passion of fantasy, it was something rarer: respect, partnership, and an attempt at unity in a world built on separation. Their son, Thomas Rolfe, grew to embody that legacy. He was both Powhatan and English, a living symbol of the hope his parents once represented. In the heart of Virginia, by the banks of the James River, where the tobacco once grew and the oak trees still stand, the memory of that quiet union endures. A union not born of convenience, but of choice. A love that crossed oceans, languages, and centuries. And in the history of America, it remains one of the earliest and most poignant reminders that love, even when caught in the web of politics and power, has the power to change the course of nations.